Good morning. You'll have to tell me if, oh, okay. I'm standing on something I never stood on before, and it's, wow, this is great. I'm really tall. Woo! So, welcome newcomers, members, and friends to our worship service at Central Unitarian Church. My name is Susan Gempler, your worship associate for this morning, a member of the choir on the Spring Fling Committee, and just all-around member. CUC is an inclusive community which embraces diversity in identity, expression, and spiritual belief. Many of our friends and our neighbors find inspiration, hope, and renewal with us, and we hope that you find something meaningful about our service today. If you are visiting us in person, please be sure to say hello to one of the welcome hosts, who are we have Elizabeth Stewart, Monica Marchater, and Winsome Demetrius. You can wave your hands. We gather as, and if you're online, there should be a link at the bottom with our we'd like you to leave your contact information. The link for it's a guest book, and it's provided in the chat at the bottom of your screen. We gather as a community of all ages. We believe our children and our youth are an integral part of our community and the future of our faith tradition. We welcome all with open hearts. We recognize that our bodies and minds and spirits require different ways of paying attention, and they differ from person to person. And we strive to support each other in creating a space that works for as many of us as possible. Silence is not our goal, and stillness has never been our goal. We aim to support each other in enjoying our time together as a community. We are grateful for those helping to make the service happen today. Matt Anderson, our music director, and our tech geniuses behind the scene, Phil Sosinsky and Jim Karabin, who make this possible for audio and for the people online. We invite you to stay after service for coffee, which I don't know if we're having today, but definitely conversation and connection right here. And none of you are having problems with that conversation part, I've noticed this morning. And we ask those of you in person to please silence your electronic devices. And for those of you online, we encourage you to have your own chalice ready to light as we light our own chalice here in our worship space. We welcome today's guest service leader, Deborah Singer Pires. Deborah is a retired college professor, and she's taught English as a second language to foreign students for 43 years. While she was teaching, she co-authored 3 text workbook series and acted in a semi-professional theater company. She is currently an award-winning watercolorist. She has been a UU since 1988 when her family joined CUC. She has been co-president of her congregation, UU Congregation of the Palisades, for 10 years. And she has written and delivered over 60 services. She has 2 daughters, 2 grandchildren, and a dog. I've got several announcements. CUC's annual meeting is going to take on Sunday, June 4th, that's next week, here in the sanctuary and also online. The notice and meeting materials were distributed, I believe, this last Thursday via email. And in 2 weeks, on June 11th, we will hold our annual flower ceremony. During the service, and the CUC choir will perform one last time in our sanctuary here in Paramus. Following the service, we will hold our annual year-end picnic in the courtyard. Be sure to join us for this festive service and celebration and marking the end of our congregational year before we transition to smaller summer services in our assembly room. This year's summer service, we have a theme, and it's called My Inspiration. We invite you to consider speaking at one of our summer services by sharing the story of someone who inspired you and how they made a difference in your life. See the May Bulletin for additional details, and please connect with Reverend Andre if you're interested in speaking. I have another announcement. CUC is scheduled to deliver approximately 200 hot meals on Sunday, June 25, to the Family Promise Shelter. If you're able to help with prepping, shopping, cooking, transporting, please call Karen Clements to sign up. In particular, we need 2 to 3 drivers to deliver the hot food to Hackensack. Now, I hope I haven't missed anything, and so I think it's now time to more formally begin our gathering. Please turn to a person near you and offer them a very warm welcome.
Good morning. I may take this stool home with me. As surely as we belong to the universe, as surely as we belong to the universe, we belong together. We join here to transcend the isolated self, to reconnect, to know ourselves to be at home, here on earth, under the stars, linked with each other.
It's time to light our chalice. Could you all say the words with me? We light this chalice to remind us of our dreams, to nourish our heart, mind, and spirit, to work towards a better world for all, to embrace the whole of our human experience, to honor our past and our gifts of the present, to create a community where each of us may find healing, transformation, and hope. Now let us sing together hymn number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. We are able to fulfill our mission here at Central Unitarian Church through the generous contributions of our members and our friends. Your financial gifts help us to maintain our operating budget, which includes paying for our staff in all the programming and social action that we do. If you are capable of making a financial contribution today, your gift will help ensure that CUC continues to be a vital part of our lives and our community. Our offering will now be gratefully received. That was wonderful. We dedicate these gifts in the service of our mission to welcome all into a home of spiritual diversity that challenges us to become our best selves, to minister to one another in love, and to serve the greater community.
Since we are not exactly following the order of service, I always call it the disorder of service. I'm going to read my second reading first. And are you hearing a reverb? I'm hearing an echo of my voice. Once is enough for me. This reading is from the book called On Moving by Louise DeSalvo. After World War II, my father came back home to the United States from an island in the Pacific. He gets off the bus, carrying his sea bag, and walks down the street to the tenement in Hoboken, where I'm living with my mother. My mother and I have moved there since his deployment. We're no longer living in the apartment they refurbished together before their marriage. This is the first time he'll see what will become his home for the next several years. Quote, and he says, "Only it wasn't my home, you see. It was yours and your mother's. I never felt I belonged there, and I couldn't wait to move. So many men like me came back to places they'd never seen before, where they didn't feel as if they belonged. When my father returned home from the war, he didn't come home, he said. He came back to the idea of home, a place where the war could be forgotten, where he could pick up his life where he'd left it off, to a place that could soothe and heal the pain he'd lived through." And thank you to all our veterans today and every day for their gifts.
Now we enter into a time of meditation, taking a moment to share our joys and our sorrows. We do this each week as a way of caring for each other, and we will not include this segment in the service recording. This will allow us to share our joys and sorrows within the space of those gathered here without publicly sharing them on the internet with the rest of the recorded service. We invite you to share the joys and sorrows you hold in your heart today. Now, I invite you to share out loud the names of anyone else you are holding in your heart today. May we hold all these joys and all these sorrows, both spoken and unspoken, in our hearts while we enter into a moment of silence. Blessed be. Let us sing together hymn number 1. May nothing evil cross this door.
Nothing evil cross this door, and
should never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. The hearth, though the world grow chill, will keep you warm. He shall walk softly through these rooms, touching all our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into a shrine. Down the rockers shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in. No.
I'm up.
Oh, we're sharing this, I'm sorry. And not well, that's why we're stumbling, so.
When I was at CUC, it was a lot more formal. No, I like it. As you heard, I taught English as a second language at a community college for a very long time. And one of the topics that we talked about was home. And I asked my students to write a short paragraph about what do they think of when they think of home. And I loved this one. It's by a Haitian student who moved to the United States, Wickerson Victor. And I'd like to read this. Everyone has a place they call home. Home is where you were born and grew up. It's a place where all your family and friends are. Home is where you can find people who truly love you for who you are, not for what you have. Being away from home is fine because you might leave home for a better life, but there's no place that can replace home. It's like a fish out of water when you're not home. So it doesn't matter how long you've been away from home. What matters is you'll never forget where you came from. Home is a destination that will never delete in your GPS. Very nice for a student whose first language is not English. Oh, okay. A house is not a home. It's 1938 in Kitzay, a small village about 30 minutes by train from Vienna, Austria. 17-year-old Marcel lives with his parents and two brothers in a one-story cement house with an orchard in the back and cobblestone streets in front. His relatives and friends also live in the village. He works at the family butcher shop and plays soccer when he isn't in school. It's a close and safe community where the Jews have lived for over 200 years. Then one morning, everything changes. The Nazis come to the village. The neighbor hides the family in his wagon and takes them to Vienna before dawn. The house and everything in it, the orchard, Marcel's friends, his relatives, gone. Marcel and his immediate family stay in Vienna for several months until it becomes too dangerous for the Jews. They leave for Shanghai, the only open port, where they live in the British Quarter. When the Japanese invade, they have to move to the Jewish ghetto. They have to leave again when the communists come in 1949. This time, they go to America, San Francisco to New York. First, they live in Manhattan, then Brooklyn, next Queens, then to Sydney, Australia. Don't ask. Back to Queens, New York, then Long Island, and finally 2 apartments in New Jersey. At the time of his death at 88 and a half years old, Marcel had lived in at least 16 houses. And yet, whenever he dreamt of home, it was always the house in Kitsay and his friends and relatives. 1934, Brooklyn, New York. Anna is 16 years old. She's excited and looking forward to sleeping at her wealthy cousin's house tonight. It's the first time she will sleep away from home. A 4th-floor walk-up with a coal-burning stove and an icebox in the kitchen. She brings coal up from the basement every day and gets ice from the iceman before she goes to school. Anna's mother had left her family in Ukraine because of the pogroms and came to the United States with a friend when she was 16. Her mother has no relatives here. She's unemotional and aloof and never learned to speak English. Anna has never gotten along with her mother, but she adores her father. After an enjoyable night at her cousin's, she walks home in the morning and finds her mother and brother crying in the kitchen. "What's wrong?" she says in Yiddish. "What happened? Where's father?" Her mother cries as she tells her in Yiddish, "He died last night. The ambulance took him away." Shock. Anna never saw her father again. She lost her father and the security of her home. It was no longer a safe or loving space. The trauma of this experience never left her. She developed a powerful fear of leaving home, which stayed with her her whole life. Marcel and Anna were my parents. When they were already in their early 50s, Marcel had the idea to move the family to Sydney, Australia, which we did. Marcel had moved so many times, he saw it as a great adventure and looked forward to going. He was like a hermit crab. Whenever a house didn't fit anymore, he was ready to move. But Anna had a breakdown. Her home, the home she had made with her family, was her house in New York City where she had lived her entire life. She equated leaving her home with tragedy. Well, Marcel and Anna had very different feelings about home because home is an idea nourished by our early experiences and memories. The French philosopher Gaston Bachelard, in his book The Poetics of Space, says, "There's a great deal of truth in the saying, a house is not a home. Home symbolizes the nostalgia of original place that one can never return to. Each house that one lives in throughout life has elements of the idea of home. There's obviously a close relationship between the symbolism of house and home, and often they are used interchangeably. However, home has some sentimental and emotional attachment. Home has warmth of family, and its memory should be a happy one. It's where you feel comfortable and safe." Well, that was the experience of my father, as it is for many people. Not for my mother, though, whose negative feelings about her original home are also shared by many. Home is both a place of origin and goal or destination. In the movie Patch Adams, Robin Williams' character says, All of life is a coming home. All the restless hearts of the world trying to find a way home. How small you can feel, how far away from home when you feel lost. The distance from home is not always a matter of miles, but is also a matter of time. According to an interview with Paul Simon, his 1960s song, Homeward Bound, is partly about an attempt to return to a pastime of innocence. The home they sing about is America of the 1950s. Although many of us make our homes in a house, the idea of home is not necessarily a house. It can be any place where you feel comfortable, you truly feel yourself. Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer, says, "Swimming is normal for me. I'm relaxed, I'm comfortable, and I know my surroundings. It's my home. The earth is our home. My minister feels most at home when she's walking in nature through the woods or hiking mountain trails. Nature is her spiritual home." And churches, of course, are also our spiritual homes. How many of you felt that you were home when you found CUC? I did. When I walked through the doors of CUC 35 years ago, I found a community of like-minded people who believed the same things I believed and shared my values. And at that time, half the congregants were raised Jewish, married to the other half who were not. Like me and my husband. We belonged. We had found our spiritual home. Several years ago, I had to take my daughter to the emergency room at NYU Hospital in Manhattan. We had been sitting there for a while when a woman walked in. She was wearing a faded hat with a felt flower, a blouse with holes, a long skirt, and a tattered sweater instead of a coat, even though it was late November and it had started to snow. When she walked in, everyone on the staff greeted her. "Hi, Audrey. Hello, Audrey. How are you doing today?" I overheard one nurse tell another, "You don't have to take her information. She's not here for a medical reason. She stops by every day and sits here." Well, Audrey was homeless. I know that's not the correct PC word at the moment, but the NYU ER, in a sense, had become her home. People knew and accepted her. She felt comfortable there. She felt at home. A friend I had when I was young was so embarrassed about her tiny house that she felt very uncomfortable inviting her friends over. But her friends loved to go there. My friend's parents were Italian immigrants. Her mother was always cooking something, and the house smelled of food and love. "Mangia, mangia, eat," she would say every time we visited. And out came the dishes piled high with spaghetti. Her friends could sense the joy and warmth in her house, and that's what made it a home. No one noticed that it was a tiny house. A house is made with walls and beams. A home is made with love and dreams. A house is just a physical structure, usually solid. It might be made of brick or wood, but a house has no meaning until we give it meaning. The symbolism of the house is associated with enclosed and protected space, similar to the mother's womb. In fact, it's the first place in each person's life. As an enclosed space, it serves to shelter and protect from the outside world. In the Poetics of Space, Bachelard writes about the house, noting, "If I were asked to name the chief benefit of the house, I would say, the house shelters daydreaming. The house protects the dreamer. The house allows one to dream in peace." A house can also be viewed as simply a place where we can express a private and unguarded self in an increasingly public world. In Jungian psychology, what happens inside a house happens inside us. Freudian psychology associates the house with the woman, a feminine symbol. The house can also represent different layers of the psyche. Ania Teilhard, daughter of a German philosopher, discusses the psychic symbolism in her book, The Symbolism of Dreams. Houses often appear in dreams, and the different parts of them have different meanings for the individual. The outside of the house signifies the outward appearance of man, his personality, or his mask. The roof and upper floors correspond to the head and mind, as well as to the conscious exercise of self-control. Similarly, the basement corresponds to the unconsciousness and instincts. The stairs are the link between the various planes of the psyche. Houses symbolize the lives of their inhabitants. 28 years ago, I kept having a recurring dream, a nightmare, actually, that I was moving, but I didn't want to move. I didn't know where I was moving to, and I was leaving the security of my home. It was a frightening dream. It turned out to be prescient, though, because soon after those dreams, my husband died suddenly. Although I didn't move from my house, literally, my life, symbolized by my house, had moved and changed dramatically. Stay home. It's the message we heard in New Jersey in 2020 and may again, unfortunately, hear in the future. Our homes have always been the foundation of our lives, but suddenly, during the time of COVID, their importance magnified. The security our house provided had never been more real as we retreated to its sanctuary to stay safe from the pandemic. Home has always been the backdrop for many of the most important aspects of our lives, but it was suddenly thrust into new roles. Office, school, entertainment center, gym, place of worship, social connection center. How did you view your house during the lockdown in 2020? Did you see your house as a refuge, or as Ellen DeGeneres called it, a prison? Though a house is not a home, we make our homes in our houses, and they become part of us. What happens then when people lose their houses? The United States has had a shameful history taking away people's houses, not giving value to those homes or to the people living in them. Native Americans, African Americans, immigrants, veterans, and the poor. And there are many who have lost their homes to fire, floods, tornadoes, or hurricanes in many parts of the country due to climate change. Terrifying. Wild animals have lost their homes too and roam through suburban neighborhoods just a few miles from Manhattan. We've seen deer, rabbits, groundhogs, raccoons, opossums, black bears, foxes, and coyotes in our backyards, looking for food and shelter because our homes have been built over theirs in the mad building of luxury apartments by investors. And what about CUC? You are losing this home. Only you're not losing a home. You're losing a house. Oh, you will feel nostalgic when you pass by after you move. Yeah, that's where my kids went to RE. That's where I worked in the garden. That's where I used to take walks in the park after service. That's where we had the memorial service for my husband. It will be sad. Might even feel painful. But we can't go back. And there's a new home and a new adventure waiting for you. And you will have the opportunity to create a new home that reflects who the congregation is now. You are losing a house, but taking your home, your friends, and your memories with you. Our homes are a reflection of who we are. We fill our houses with things of beauty that bring us joy and peace, items that reveal what's important to us in a way that words can't. In fact, we clean and decorate rooms of our houses and cajole them into our ideas of beauty and convenience, just as we do with our physical bodies. To feel truly happy in our homes, we need to be intentional about the space we inhabit, to create environments that foster social and emotional happiness and peace. Take a fresh look around your house. What does it say about you? What things have you put in it that make you smile, that reflect who you are, that make you feel at home? Does your space soothe you? Does your space uplift or deplete you? Your space is sacred. If there's stagnant energy, physical clutter, and emotional attachments to the things that make up the clutter, there's no opening for energy to move through. Through self-reflection and discovery, we can be intentional about the surroundings in our home and be happier. Lightening up the energy in our homes by getting rid of clutter can lighten up the energy in us. The typical American home has 300,000 items. There are items in our homes which have had a good life, but no longer serve to make us happy. Time to give them a second life. And finally, the great and wise comedian George Carlin said, "Houses have become just a pile of stuff with a cover on it. And when you leave your house, you gotta lock it up. Wouldn't want somebody to come by and take some of your stuff. They always take the good stuff. They never bother with that trash you're saving." That's what your house is, a place to keep your stuff while you go out and get more stuff. Sometimes you gotta get a bigger house. Why? No room for your stuff anymore. So get rid of some of your stuff. You'll feel better. Be grateful for your house, which has given you a home. Cherish it, take care of it, and appreciate it. Not only the homes we live in, but our congregations, our communities, our earth. And if our circumstances ever change, may we remember the words of Maya Angelou. I long, as does every human being, to be at home wherever I find myself. May it be so.
Now, we're going to extinguish our chalice. Would you all say the words with me, please? We extinguish this chalice flame, but not our promise to each other, to act with grace, to hold each other in love, to serve this community and our world. This promise of the heart serves as a reminder of how we live together. May it bring joy to our collective lives.
These words are by the Chinese philosopher of the 6th century BCE, Lao Tse. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. Blessed be. Go in peace.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Deborah, and thank you, Matt. Thank you for the glasses, and I have to admit, I just found them in my pocket with my grocery list. Sorry about that.